Jewish holidays, also known as Jewish festivals or Yamim Tovim, are holidays observed in Judaism and by Jews throughout the Hebrew calendar. They are derived from three sources: biblical mitzvot, rabbinic mandates, and the history of the State of Israel. General concepts. Groupings. Certain terms are used very commonly for groups of holidays. The Hebrew language term Yom Tov usually refers to the 6 biblically mandated festival dates on which all activities prohibited on Shabbat are prohibited, except for some related to food preparation. These include the 1st and 7th days of Passover, 1st day of Shavuot, both days of Rosh Hashanah, 1st day of Sukkot, and 1st day of Shemini Atzeret. By extension, outside the land of Israel. The second-day holidays known under the rubric Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galuyot are also included in this grouping. Colloquially, Yom Kippur, a biblically mandated date on which even food preparation is prohibited, is often included in this grouping. The English language term High Holy Days refers to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur collectively. Its Hebrew analog, Yamim Noraim, days of awe, is more flexible. It can refer just to those holidays, or to the 10 days of repentance, or to the entire penitential period, starting as early as the beginning of Elul. The term 3 pilgrimage festivals refers to Passover, Shavuot and Sukkot. Within this grouping, Sukkot normally includes Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. Terminology used to describe holidays. Certain terminology is used in referring to different categories of holidays, depending on their source and the nature. Shabbat, or Sabbath, is referred to by that name exclusively. Similarly, Rosh Chodesh is referred to by that name exclusively. Yom Tov, see groupings above. Mode, plural modim, refers to any of the 3 pilgrimage festivals of Passover, Shavuot and Sukkot. When used in comparison to Yom Tov, it refers to Chal HaMod, the intermediate days of Passover and Sukkot. Ag or Chag, plural Chagim, can be used whenever Yom Tov or Mod is. It is also used to describe Hanukkah and Purim, as well as Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim. Ta'anit, or, less commonly, Tzom, refers to a fast. These terms are generally used to describe the rabbinic fasts, although Tzom is used liturgically to refer to Yom Kippur as well. Work on Sabbath and biblical holidays. The most notable common feature of Shabbat and the biblical festivals is the requirement to refrain from melachah on these days. Melachah is most commonly translated as work. Perhaps a better translation is creative, constructive work. Strictly speaking, melachah is defined in Jewish law by 39 categories of labor that were used in constructing the tabernacle while the Jews wandered in the desert. As understood traditionally and in Orthodox Judaism, on Shabbat and Yom Kippur all melachah is prohibited. On a Yom Tov which falls on a weekday, not Shabbat, most melachah is prohibited. Some melachah related to preparation of food is permitted. On weekdays during Chal HaMod, melachah is not prohibited per se. However, melachah should be limited to that required either to enhance the enjoyment of the remainder of the festival or to avoid great financial loss. On other days, there are no restrictions on melachah. In principle, conservative Judaism understands the requirement to refrain from melachah in the same way as Orthodox Judaism. In practice, conservative rabbis frequently rule on prohibitions around melachah differently from Orthodox authorities. Still, there are a number of conservative Masorti communities around the world where Sabbath and festival observance fairly closely resembles Orthodox observance. However, many, if not most, lay members of conservative congregations in North America do not consider themselves Sabbath observant, even by conservative standards. At the same time, adherents of Reform Judaism and Reconstructionist Judaism do not accept halachah, and therefore restrictions on melachah, as binding at all. Jews fitting any of these descriptions refrain from melachah in practice only as they personally see fit. Saving a life. Shabbat and holiday work restrictions are always put aside in cases of pikuach nefesh, which is saving a human life. At the most fundamental level, if there is any possibility whatsoever that action must be taken to save a life, Shabbat restrictions are violated immediately, and without reservation. Where the danger to life is present but less immediate, there is some preference to minimize violation of Shabbat work restrictions where possible. The laws in this area are complex. Second day of biblical festivals. The Torah specifies a single date on the Jewish calendar for observance of holidays. Nevertheless, festivals of biblical origin other than Shabbat and Yom Kippur are observed for 2 days outside of the land of Israel, and Rosh Hashanah is observed for 2 days even inside the land of Israel. Dates for holidays on the Jewish calendar are expressed in the Torah's day X of month Y. Accordingly, the beginning of month Y needs to be determined before the proper date of the holiday on day X can be fixed. Months in the Jewish calendar are lunar, and originally could only be proclaimed by the Sanhedrin based on the testimony of witnesses saying they saw the new crescent moon. The Sanhedrin would then have to inform Jewish communities away from its meeting place that it had proclaimed the new moon. The practice of observing a second festival day stemmed from delays in disseminating that information. Rosh Hashanah. Because of holiday restrictions on travel, messengers could not even leave the seat of the Sanhedrin until the holiday was over. Inherently, there was no possible way for anyone living away from the seat of the Sanhedrin to receive news of the proclamation of the new month until messengers arrived after the fact. Accordingly, the practice emerged that Rosh Hashanah was observed on both possible days, as calculated from the previous month's start, everywhere in the world. 3 pilgrimage festivals, Sukkot and Passover, fall on the 15th day of their respective months. This gave messengers 2 weeks to inform communities about the proclamation of the new month. Normally, they would reach most communities within the land of Israel within that time, but they might fail to reach communities farther away. Consequently, the practice developed that these holidays be observed for 1 day within Israel, but for 2 days outside of Israel. This practice is known as Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galuyot, second day of festivals in exile communities. For Shavuot, calculated as the 50th day from Passover, the above issue did not pertain directly, as the correct date for Passover would be known by then. Nevertheless, the Talmud applies the same rule to Shavuot, and to the 7th day of Passover and Shemini Atzeret, for consistency. Yom Kippur is not observed for 2 days anywhere because of the difficulty of maintaining a fast over 2 days. Shabbat is not observed based on a calendar date, but simply at intervals of 7 days. Accordingly, there is never a doubt of the date of Shabbat, and it need never be observed for 2 days. Adherents of Reform Judaism and Reconstructionist Judaism generally do not observe the second day of festivals, although some do observe 2 days of Rosh Hashanah.